When those moments are so meaningful, the last thing you do is trump the moment with something else. You have to make that cigar the special moment. I think cigars are so important because they are misunderstood by the majority. I was the guy with the red pants, pinstripe jacket with 3 pocket squares.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Burn Down. As you guys can see, and if you're listening, we are here at the Leafs Lounge in New Milford, New Jersey, with someone special.
It's been a long time waiting, man.
Been a long time coming. The myth, the legend, Michael Herklots.
What's up, fellas?
What's going on, brother man?
It's about time.
It's been...
it's ridiculous.
It's been years.
Yeah.
We're not talking months, we're not talking days, weeks, but this has been 2-3
You're a busy
years.
guy.
It was the COVID crunch.
That was it.
Yeah.
It was the COVID crunch.
When I was first talking to Michael and I was trying to get it, I'm like, hey, I got these dates, and these. He's like, yeah, Las Vegas, Ohio, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. I can't do any of that. I'm like,
I think I heard China in there, too. My man was everywhere.
I think the first time you threw out a date, you were like, when are you available? I was like, how's 2025?
Yeah, pretty much.
And I was like,
pretty much.
Shit, it's that
But
deep.
we made it happen.
But we made it happen. And actually, it's funny enough because we were here a couple of months ago. Shout out to Israel, who's behind the scenes right now. We had interviewed him at Leaf Cigar Lounge, so shout out to Leafs. And turns out Michael doesn't live too far from here. So you know what? Let's just make it happen. So,
and I appreciate you guys making the trip to it. It definitely made it easier for me.
Of course. That's
what it's all about.
That's what it's all about.
Making it easier for me.
Yeah,
yeah.
We're men of the people. So we got a little cigar event in one room. We got a little private, private lounge, public viewing.
Yeah, a little viewing.
Podcast right now.
Yeah.
So this
is
is
like what
for
they
us.
say. What do they go? Previously recorded in front of a live audience, right?
Yeah, it's like the Oprah Winfrey show.
The Oprah Winfrey show, right?
Probably more Jerry Springer.
Let's do it.
Yeah, as the podcast goes on, more and more people are going to come in. We might get some hecklers around here. I see one guy in sunglasses already eyeing me down over there.
I gotta say, I think this might be a first. This might be a first of all time here to do a cigar.
I like the
talk show.
I think it's
live
great.
Viewing.
I think Michael said it himself. He said this is like the first of its kind. So if the legend is saying it, so
aside from having some actor back in like the 70s on some talk show that is smoking a cigar, in front of one of these
you in a really big chair.
Talk hosts, but
look, are you uncomfortable?
The chair's a unique chair. Look at this.
Do you want to switch out? We could switch out the chair, man.
Look, you can sit all the way back there, but you just move the arm, and then you're just hanging.
No, it's good.
We could switch out the chair. Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. Shh.
There it is. See, there it is.
See, that's
now,
a great picture right there. Look,
that's the picture right there.
You're rocking and rolling.
So, all right. So we got to talk about what we're smoking. You guys already lit up, and I'm dying. Okay, I'm like scratching at the neck here. So tell me what we've got here. So this is your brand, Ferio Tego.
This is the newest.
This is the newest.
Yeah. This is Ferio Tego Suma.
Okay, so now tell me a little bit about this. What's the Suma? I see it's a nice torpedo size, or Vitola, as we would call it in the industry.
So Ferio Tego originally, when we did the very first release, 2021, it's an annual limited release. So it's one size, 6x50, and 2 blends, Elegancia and Generoso. And when they're gone, they're gone. The following year, the next release comes out. So that was really the plan A model of what I wanted to do for Ferio Tego. But obviously, I had plans to do a core line Ferio that would be more traditionally available through supply and demand. However, the excitement and need to also restore and rebuild Timeless and Metropolitan took precedent over core for Ferio. So we did Elegancia and Generoso, then Timeless and Metropolitan, and now finally core Ferio Tego, which is Suma. And Suma in Latin translates to sort of a summary or a synthesis of the body of work to date. And that's really what this blend is. I mean, it is truly, it's obviously my latest and greatest, but it also is very evocative of my 24 years in the business, certainly my last 10 or 12 years blending and creating blends. This is the newest. I think it's just delicious. Feedback has been tremendous. I'm excited for you guys to try it.
Yeah, I'm very excited. It smells. It
You haven't
smells.
even started. You haven't smoked
I
yet.
know. I'm cherishing it. Okay,
You're getting
soaking
the
it all
pre-lit-
in.
the
All right.
pre-light
Let me
ritual.
be me. Okay, this is my experience. All right.
I'm a big believer in you gotta look at it. You have to feel it. You have to dry smoke it. You have to smell
It's
it.
all about the pre-light
Maybe
ceremony.
you rushed into it a little too much.
Well, no,
okay,
no, no.
maybe you didn't cherish
All right,
the
let me
moment.
back
here,
up real quick.
You know.
I'm all about the pre-light ceremony, but before on the way here, you're like, I need a cigar bad.
You're
I
right.
need to
You
do
know,
it. I need
listen.
a cigar. So I thought you would already have it lit up already.
You know what, Eric? When you're right, you're right.
So that's the only reason why I say that.
Okay, so now I want to ask about the blend, but I do want to. Where did you come up with this label? There's like a guy fighting off a snake with 5 heads here.
So that's Hercules.
I was just gonna say, is that Hercules?
Yeah.
All right.
striking the Hydra, which I forget what the mythological background. Hercules had like 7 tasks he had to go do. I forget what it's called, and one of them was fighting the Hydra.
Oh.
And that image, Hercules and the Hydra, is in the Herklots family coat of arms, and Ferio Tego is the Herklots family motto,
Wow.
which in the context of the image means Hercules strikes the Hydra and disposes of its evils, but strike and dispose sucks for a cigar company. So in other contexts, Ferio Tego translates to strike and defend,
Okay.
which totally rings true to what Ferio Tego is.
That was the next question is where does Ferio Tego come from? So now I know strike and defend.
Yeah, if you go on the
Is
Ferio
that
Tego
what is
website,
that? What language is that? Latin.
yeah,
Okay.
you'll see the original Herklots coat of arms and kind of see where it all comes from.
Now, how did you take it back real quick? How did you even get involved in the cigar industry? Because I remember when I first started smoking cigars like 6-7 years ago. You know, I knew Nat Sherman. I knew you and Nat Sherman, and you know, how did that whole thing
I mean,
work
that
out?
makes me feel old.
Well, I'm assuming that's where the Timeless and Metropolitan
Yeah.
came from, right? Because wasn't that a Nat Sherman thing?
Exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I started in the business in 1999.
Okay.
So it's been a long run. Retail in Boston for 4 years. Then I moved to New York City. Started working at Davidoff on Madison Avenue. That was 2002. Ultimately, I ran retail, the shop at Columbus Circle and Madison Avenue my last 3 or 4 years. Then I got recruited to join Nat Sherman in 2011. And then that was my first project for Nat Sherman was the Timeless Collection to really create something new and different
Yeah.
that would, as it turned out, kind of begin to author what became the final chapter of that business. But 9 years with Nat Sherman, and including 3 of those that were under Altria ownership. So that was quite a unique experience. And then once Nat Sherman closed, I formed Ferio Tego. We got to work on Elegancia and Generoso, and then we had really the great opportunity to be able to acquire the brands of Nat Sherman back and put them under the Ferio Tego umbrella, which, you know, just from a personal standpoint, it was an opportunity to continue my work. You know, I mean, it's almost like, I said this the other day in an interview. I'm a drummer. We were just talking drums and music. So imagine when you write a song or you record an album, that memorializes the work. You know what I mean? And so even though you always want to write new songs and play new music and have other artistic opportunities, even if you don't want to play that song again, there's a record of it somewhere. And the part that really disturbed me was the idea that the songs were going to be erased, that all the work that went into Timeless and all the work that went into Metropolitan was just going to disappear. It was a very difficult thing to come to grips with. So we engaged to try and acquire, and Altria was super thoughtful, and there were other people bidding, but ultimately, as they said, we weren't the highest, we weren't the lowest, but we had a really fair offer, and we were the right party to continue the work because it was our work to begin with.
How long in advance did you know Nat Sherman was on the decline and you were building your
Well, I think
business
that's
plan?
an important distinction. Nat Sherman was never on the decline.
Okay.
It was ultimately a business decision that
Okay, I didn't know that.
cigars were not core to Altria's business. And some of the decisions they made on the cigarette business just had unintended consequences for the cigar business. And it would have just been too much work and too much money to prop up the cigar business. And so ultimately the decision was to try and sell it as opposed to just close it. We were literally at the table signing the deal to sell in March of 2020. And COVID hit as we were completing the deal, and it killed the deal.
So you purchasing the Timeless and the Metropolitan was a way to preserve all of that hard work and all of that legacy of that cigar brand.
Yes and no. Because, and this, I hope this doesn't sound, jaded or unappreciative, but in no way is Ferio Tego somehow a continuation of some other legacy.
No, of course not. Of course not.
This was basically, it was an opportunity to get credit for the work. It was an opportunity to be able to author the work instead of ghostwriting the work for 10 years.
Sure. I see.
But they were blends that I created. It's part of my body of work. And so the opportunity to allow those to live on was certainly meaningful to me and meaningful to people who have enjoyed those blends for years and years. I mean, Metropolitan predates me. That started in 1994, 1995. People have depended on Metropolitan for almost 30 years. And through no fault of their own, that blend was going to go away. So the opportunity, having spent 10 years protecting that blend, maintaining those blends, preserving the experience of those blends, to now be able to continue the work still, not on behalf of, but as, it's a pretty awesome.
So if I have a Nat Sherman in my humidor still, how long should I age it before it gets really?
Just smoke it, bro.
Yeah, I
like that answer.
Yeah.
I like that answer.
Well, see, that's funny. That brings up a good question too. Is a lot of people say, you have the guys that are collectors, right? And I wouldn't really consider myself a collector because I like to smoke the cigars that I have, right? You might be saving some for special occasions, right?
Here's the thing.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Uh-oh, he's going to learn.
He stood up for this.
Yeah.
It's
He's
a power
leaned into. You saw him lean forward on that one. Yeah.
I've got humidors all over my house, and every one of them has cigars that I have put away for a special occasion, and I have been blessed with so many special moments, and those fucking cigars are still in there.
Smoke. So to your point, smoke them, right?
Because the reason is, when those moments are so meaningful, the last thing you do is trump the moment with something else.
Sure.
Like it's about that moment. Your special moments are special moments. You have to make that cigar the special moment. And you should do that like Tuesday morning on your drive to work. Take one, cut it, and light it, and smoke it. Make the cigar the moment. Don't add it.
Don't make the moment the cigar.
Add-on
Right.
to something else.
Wow, I
Make
like that.
the
I
thing.
like that perspective.
I have to start smoking some of my
I mean,
bad
if we
boys,
learned
man.
anything in COVID, it's life is short and precious. And if you woke up today, celebrate today. Do something special today.
Yes.
Even if that's pulling out one of your dusties from your humidor.
Man.
That's a very.
Well, they say smoke them if you got them, right?
Yeah.
Can't take them with you.
I was always like, hey, I'm going to save this cigar for this moment, yada, yada, yada. But, when you say it in that perspective, like, don't make the cigar about the moment. Make the moment about the moment.
And it's the same. It's the same with wine. It's the same with everything. We save these things. And I can't tell you how many times I've waited and then I crack open the bottle and it's corked. Or like something's wrong.
Yeah, because you waited too long at that point. Yep.
Or I have no idea when the flaw occurred.
Yep.
But somehow it's disappointing.
See, that
So
brings
who cares?
up a good a funny story is so when my wife and I got married, somebody had gifted us a case of Farniente, right? One of his favorite bottles of wine, actually. And we had said, okay, you know what? Maybe we'll just hold on to this. Like, this is like a sealed case, right? In the wooden case, everything nailed. Said, maybe we'll save this. And then, like, we'll try one bottle. Right? So we opened it up, tried a bottle, tried another bottle. Next thing you know, like, we haven't even been married for a year, and the whole case is gone. And it's like, but people say, why didn't you save on some? I said, well, you know what? We had the first bottle, and we enjoyed it so much that we said, screw it. We're just going to keep drinking this because now that the case is open, we're not selling the case. And you're not going to hold on to these. I can always just buy another bottle of Farniente if I go to the store. It's not like it's a 1972 Chateau de Cam that I'm never going to get again. I can always go buy that. So like you said, make the wine that moment.
And you made 12 memorable moments.
Oh yeah,
with those 12 bottles.
Yeah,
most definitely.
Exactly.
That's worth way more than one unopened case.
That's how I'm looking at it from now on.
Yeah, because what is the case worth? Oh, maybe $1,500. Okay. Who gives a shit? Just now you have 12 moments of.
It's not worth as much as 12 bottles with your wife, one at a time.
You know what?
And it's the small moments too, because it's not like we were sitting in the basement watching a movie and have that bottle of wine, and we're like, wow, this bottle's so good.
But that's it.
And that's the moment.
The bottle the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Eating pizza and watching a movie. That's how it should be.
It reminds me of my dad, because my dad is very family oriented, loves to do family trips and stuff like that. And he'll go on a trip and he'll be like, you know what? Yeah, it was a little more expensive than I wanted to, but this one picture here is worth every penny. And he's like, we got everyone in the picture. We had all good moments. It was worth every single dollar. He's like, so think about that when you plan trips, when you do things. Don't worry about the money or the monetary value. Worry about the moments and the things that you occur through life, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, you're always going to make money.
Man.
Yeah, always. There's always ways to make money.
You can always make more. Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, that's the idea. That's funny that you brought up the pizza, right? A real quick thing is probably the most bougie thing that we ever done is you order for every time for Valentine's Day. You order we get a $10 pizza and we get like a $200 bottle of wine. It's like the most bougie thing ever.
That's it.
And it's great.
Heart-shaped pizza?
Yeah, of course, heart shaped pizza. It costs $10 and you get a $200 bottle of wine. But so we go from you have the Nat Sherman. Now you're into Ferio Tego. Okay, now did you always, like when you were a kid, you said you were a drummer, right? So I'm assuming that you didn't always want to get into the cigar business. You didn't grow up being in the cigar industry, you know what I'm saying? So how did you get into the cigar industry as a kid? You said you've been in it for 20 plus years.
Yep.
But started as a music background, which we'll probably go into as well.
I smoked my first cigar in college.
Do you remember what it was?
Ashton Classic Panatella.
Okay.
One of my roommates in college was this kid from Pittsburgh who liked cigars, who, funny enough, I was just in Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago, and he came to the event. And I said, I've told this story 1,000 times, but I've never told the kid from Pittsburgh story with the kid from Pittsburgh. And here he is. But smoked my first cigar in college, loved it. But as a broke musician, I couldn't afford the hobby. So I figured if I got a job in retail, I'd be able to hopefully get a discount and learn a little and, be able to afford it. So I got a job in retail while I was pursuing music, and that was it. I mean, I fell in love with it. I loved the interaction. I integrated it a lot too. So my focus was jazz. So and at the time you could smoke in all kinds of places. So I would go into these spots that were cigar friendly, and then I would pitch my quartet to add a live music component, and I did that everywhere. So half the joints I played had a humidor in the back that I stocked, and then my trio or quartet, whatever, would play there at the same. It was great.
So were you ever smoking cigars while you're drumming during a gig?
I tried it. I thought that'd be a fun shtick.
Hard to do, man.
Terrible. Terrible idea.
So hard to do.
I inhale half of it. I was zonked. Forget it. So no, I kept them separate.
So that's how you got into cigars, and then from there,
man, as an artist, when you have that passion gene, doesn't matter what it is, you fall quickly for things. It's so easy to identify interest or love or affection, and then you just go all in. It's the curse of an artist.
Yeah, you obsess over it.
And so as much as music was my discipline, it was also the thing I had to do now. So cigars really became my hobby and my break from doing the work. So I was working nearly full time in cigars as my break from my pursuit of music. And so they really one offered a break from the other. So, I look back, I never worked harder in my life. Even still, I worked harder those 4 years of college than I've ever worked.
But it's almost like it's not even work because, when you're, let's say, doing the gigs, that's fun. And then you say, okay, I need a little break from that because I'm working so hard. And now you go into a second passion.
Right.
Which is your cigars. All right, I need a break from that. I mean, it's still work.
Let's not make, it's work. Work is work.
Yes. But
when you're doing something that you love, it's worth the work.
It's worth the work. Okay?
Right.
It's not like you're sitting on the highway, trying to pave the road in 115-degree weather and you absolutely hate it.
I'm not turning big rocks into little rocks.
Like
I'm very fortunate.
It's hard work, but it's worth it.
So that curve was really just a matter of two things. One was personally and emotionally becoming comfortable with the idea of modifying my plan A. Because when you're in pursuit of becoming a successful musician and then you give up, that's a hard pill to swallow when you're pursuing anything, sports, music. When you say to yourself, I'm going to go do this instead, and you move those chips, that's a serious feeling of defeat. However, so my strategy was, because I loved music so much and I loved this cigar thing so much, my strategy was simply, I was not going to say no to an opportunity if I was able to say yes. And so my time with Davidoff back then, that was 2002, 3, 4, they had just launched Xeno Platinum, and the guy who was doing all the Xeno Platinum events ended up getting ill. So I said, look, I'll do all the events. We moved all the events to Monday nights. I worked Wednesday through Sunday at the Davidoff shop. Sunday night or Monday morning, I'd fly to a city, do an event Monday night, fly home Tuesday, and then I'd work Wednesday through Sunday. And for me, that's the perfect example of, there was an opportunity that I could do that I could say yes to, and I'm going to go do it. And that opened up doors. Same with visiting factories or spending time with cigar manufacturers. I got invited to go to my first trade show in 2003. I had to pay for myself, but I got the opportunity to go. So I said yes, and met new people, made a lot of relationships that are still near and dear today. But then at the same time, I did a 7-day tour of the UK playing in a band. I did, tour, bunch of stuff on the West Coast playing music. And I would take vacation from the cigar business to go do the music stuff. So for me, it was, if I can say yes and I can balance them, I'm going to keep doing that until one just ends up beating out the other.
Right.
That was my next question. When was that day? When
I was just going to ask
that. I can't do the music thing no more.
There were a series of withdrawals and deposits of eggs and baskets. So 2006, I said yes when I got offered the GM position at Davidoff Columbus Circle. That was probably the first significant transfer of eggs from music basket to cigar basket. 2008, the GM of Madison Avenue left, and they started they created a new position that they offered me to run both shops. It's a great opportunity. Few more transfers into the cigar basket. 2011, I got recruited to Nat Sherman to ultimately run everything non-cigarette and develop the cigar brand, and that was like dream come true. So that was certainly like really most of the eggs.
Everything.
I had like 4 eggs left over here. And then honestly, that was 2011 when I joined Nat Sherman. I got married in 2010. We had our firstborn in 2013. And I remember playing a gig like right around, I guess my first was already born. Maybe she was pregnant with the second. And like I was in a rehearsal for a gig for like 2 nights. And then I had to lug my stuff to the club and unload. And the whole time I'm thinking, my wife is home. My baby is home. It's 10:30. I'm a 35-year-old man still double parked on Bleecker Street unloading my stuff. Like,
what the fuck am I doing?
What am I doing? You know, I got a real job.
That's the light bulb
I have a real
moment.
career. I have a family at home, and I'm lugging my shit into this club at 10:30. And I was like, I'm not gonna say no, but I'm just going to use more discretion about what I say yes to on the music side. And so really then that was quite all in.
So now is that basket still there? That music basket still there? Just doesn't have a lot of eggs in it? Because you had said that you had played a show.
Yeah.
Before hitting record, we were talking about the last time. I was a drummer. You're a drummer. So the basket's still there. The passion for drumming is still there.
The basket's there. The drums are there.
The drums are still there.
Drums are set up. And,
just not making you any money.
No. And honestly, I mean, we were talking before we started recording. I've been on the road for 8 months, 6 months. I don't know.
Feels like 3 years for us, man. You know how long we've been trying to get you on the show.
I mean, I've been on the road since we started shipping. So October of 21, right? To me, like people say, "Oh man, you must smoke cigars all the time." Like I smoke when I have to. I smoke for work. I smoke when it's convenient and it's fun. But like to me, smoking cigars and playing drums are the two most selfish things I can do when I'm only home. 2 nights a week, like, hey guys, I missed you all week. I'm going to go up in the attic and make loud noises. Like, that's awful. Like, it's not something I can do with my family.
Right.
This isn't something I can do with my family.
Unless you teach all your kids to play an instrument.
How many kids you have now?
Hey, listen, you pick up guitar, you pick up bass.
Two kids.
Honey, you play the piano.
Yeah.
Now we can do it.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, there's less drumming, but there's a lot more family time, and that's worth it.
And how old are your kids?
I have no idea. No. 9 and 7.
The music, they get into the music side?
They're two completely different personalities, and they are both finding their own interests and like my wife played an instrument, but she was more athletic. I obviously have no athletic bone in my body whatsoever. So I was more music, and it's just fun to like let the kids discover what they're doing. They both have incredible rhythm. They both have incredible pitch, but neither one has really expressed a profound interest in music.
And when you were in the music scene, who were some of the artists, bands that you looked up to, idolized? Who would you listen to all the time?
Yeah, you said you were a jazz.
I was mostly
jazz drummer.
Yeah,
okay,
but it's a very difficult question to answer because I find inspiration everywhere. I mean, I was just talking to my dad buddies yesterday about Metallica. You wouldn't
big
think,
cigar guy, by the way.
Big cigar guy.
Big cigar guy.
But as a jazz drummer, you would think there's not a lot to learn from Lars Ulrich, but what there is to learn from him is how thoughtful and deliberate he plays. He plays with a certain level of awareness of the song and the context that you need all that stuff as a jazz guy. Mm-hmm. So, I listen to stuff that I didn't necessarily play.
No, it's actually interesting you said that you can draw inspiration from anywhere, because I was watching an interview of Nirvana's drummer. And everybody knows the song, Smells Like Teen Spirit. And there's that famous intro, right? When he's like, kaboom, kaboom, right? And he's hitting the snare drum, right? They asked me, like, how did
drummer noises? Right? I love that.
Only
drummers speak drummer, and no one got to.
If
you're not a drummer, you're like,
you don't know. He knew what I was saying. Everybody else had no idea what I was saying. But they asked me, like, it fits so perfectly for the song. I said, where'd you come up with that? He goes, honestly, it's from like 70s disco tracks. And there was a 70s disco band that, he goes, played a song. So they played the song. It was the exact same thing. And the guy says, are you kidding me? He goes, yeah, I stole it. Because everybody knows Smells Like Teen Spirit. They know the song, right? They know that drum part. He goes, I stole that part. He goes, I was listening to disco. And I was like, oh, that would probably fit. And bang. So he took a disco drum track and he inserted it into his like alternative rock, and it worked.
For me, it's the same in this business. If you look at the people who are the best in their field, they're not generally finding inspiration from their field. That's why artists are so ridiculous and don't make any money, because they waste it all on like a month trip to Italy. Chefs do the same thing.
I'm
going
finding myself.
Yeah, but you think about, what does that do? You taste things differently, you see things differently, you see the way people move and interact and socialize, and that inspires ideas that allow you to be innovative. You know, if you're just learning within your discipline, it's very difficult to think outside of the box and do things differently. And so, like, you don't smoke my cigars and taste drums and wine and food, but music and wine and food and hospitality have inspired the brand and the product in different ways, for sure.
Yeah, and it's and
no different than Lars Ulrich inspiring me
right.
to play better jazz.
Exactly. And the thing with the cigar industry too is, like, I mean, you have everybody here that has come together over, you know, cigars, and you can draw inspiration from when it comes to just the naming alone of cigars, right? Or when it comes to, hey, you know, I want a cigar that I can smoke while I'm sitting in my backyard having a cup of coffee, and you can blend a cigar like that. Or I want a cigar that is, you know, I'm going to smoke on the golf course. It's just kind of have, you know, neutral flavors, and I don't really have to worry about it. You can come up with, so you can have inspiration from anywhere in your life to create a cigar, or create a piece of art, or create a dish if you're a chef, or create a piece of music if you're a musician.
Very few artists are satisfied doing exactly the same thing the same way forever. I mean, even the greatest Broadway stars who are playing the same role in the same show 8 shows a week are still doing other things.
Yeah, you'll get burnt out if you do the same thing over and over again.
For me, I think the parallels between cigars and music are so strong. Like we were saying earlier, the idea that you're constantly trying to write better music, but you have the opportunity to memorialize them in albums. And then when you play shows, of course people want your hits, but they also are there to hear your new work.
Exactly.
You know, and you can't.
Exactly.
So you get to try things out and show things, and being able to experience that live is very different than just experiencing it and discovering it on your own, which is why I've called this whole road show a tour, because it really is. These are like live performances of engaging with consumers and retailers and talking about the products and telling more context to the stories of brands that perhaps they already love, or allowing them to discover that in real time live some new song that they haven't heard before. Like Suma.
Exactly. It's like when you go to a concert, right? You want to go to the concert, you want to hear some of their, you know, their hits, and you might hear some of the new songs that they haven't released yet. Same thing. You have a cigar brand, and you do an event, people want to come and meet you and try your cigars that they've had in the past that they really enjoy, and they say, okay, what new do you have? Right? It's the same thing as going to a concert, right? It's the same thing as, you know, going to meet a famous actor or something. Everybody loves the brand, and they love, like, what the brand represents. And when you do these events, it's their opportunity to come and meet you in person and hear more about the brand and discover what's new behind the brand.
Which goes back to the transfer of eggs was not a difficult decision, because the whole reason I wanted to be a drummer was because I loved performing, and I loved creating, and I loved collaborating, and I loved, you know, that spontaneity. I loved the hustle, trying to book gigs and put groups together and travel, like all those things. I'm literally doing all of those things. Like, everything I ever wanted to do, I'm doing. I'm just doing it completely differently.
No music,
in a total different industry.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you find the most difficult being, like, a life on the road, you know, the traveling cigar salesman? You know, because I always wonder, because we have our own cigar brand, but, you know, there's so many cigar lounges and so many different personalities. What do you find the hardest about being
remembering my hotel number?
That's not that bad,
bro.
That's pretty easy.
You get back after a long event, it's 1 a.m., and you're like,
who knows how many cocktails you've had?
314? You know? Was I in 314 last night?
No, you're in the wrong hotel. You're in the one next to it.
I mean, that honestly, that can really be a challenge. I take a picture of my hotel door when I walk in to every room, so at least I remember the last.
Yeah, but now you got to make sure that you're in the right hotel.
Also problematic.
You know,
no,
I'll tell you a story about that, but
because, you know,
I'll tell you what the hardest is.
Go ahead.
It's not necessarily the road life thing. For me, the hardest challenge is for consumers to have the confidence to brag about my brand. And I've said this a bunch, but there's always been this idea of social permission, right? And in our business, you think of rooms like this, cigar lounges. I've seen it my whole career where a new brand comes in, store owner's hot on it, turns a couple regulars onto it, and before you know it, the whole lounge is digging that brand because there's the social permission already there to love it. But now the barrier for that social permission that bar is so high because of social media that you didn't have to smoke what everyone else was smoking when you walked into a lounge. You hear the story, you smoke whatever you want. But to post it, you're only posting what's going to be met with the reaction you're hoping for.
Right.
Like.
It's the whole idea of social media.
Comment.
Yeah.
And that algorithm does not work for new brands.
Doesn't work for cigars, period, basically. But
not the actual algorithm, the social
no,
algorithm.
you're right. Yeah.
Because you only post and brag about the thing that you know is already known. Right? We only brag about our trophies for the look at me thing.
Yeah. Like you're only gonna post a pair of Balenciagas because everybody else knows what that is. But if you got a pair of shoes from DSW that nobody knows, even if they look exactly the same, you're not gonna post it because people don't. So you're not gonna get that reaction that you want.
Part. And that is a lot of boots on the ground and one-on-one telling stories and sharing our story. And every day that goes by, a new person discovers the brand, and the first thing that person does is start to go look at what the story is and who's smoking it and who's enjoying it and what is the tale of this brand and can I love it?
Sure.
And every day that goes by, there's more content and there's more support. And thank God we have great retailers who are willing to tell our story and amplify our story louder than the other stories in that humidor. But that has been the hardest for sure.
Yeah, social media is really funny with cigars just because of all the restrictions it puts on.
But what I mean, though, is not just the challenge of social media, but the broader challenge of the permission to love, the permission to brag, the permission to amplify. Whether it's on social, whether it's in rooms like this, it's in your own backyard. Or it's when you get invited to go play golf at a foursome, you're not bringing your favorite everyday value cigar that day. You're bringing the banger, right? It's guns blazing. When you go to your friend's house, you don't grab the bottle of wine that you drink every day with your wife. You have to go to the store to buy a trophy because
you want to be the guy.
Yeah, you got to show up. Yeah.
Right? You have to show up flexing. And so Ferio Tego is a brand to flex with.
It's kind of interesting because and it's a shame that it's kind of the way that the world has become where what we talk about all the time is people have become basically sheeple, where they want others to tell them, how to think, right? And it goes along what you're saying is that they want the permission to say, all right, no, this is cool, and I can post about this, instead of just taking onus and be like, no, I like this, I'm going to post about it. And it's like they become this world full of
but
I need somebody I know, but this
is marketing 101.
But it's become more apparent now with social media and you can see, how everybody reacts.
Yeah, but here's
now.
the other thing.
And it shouldn't be like that. It should be like, just post it
20
if you
years
like
ago, at least the social interaction was reality.
Yeah.
Like what was happening was actually happening. You were influencing in real time with real things and real people. Now, I love seeing pictures of people flexing with their best that goes back on the shelf. Or it goes, it's like, here's the cigar, here's the whiskey, here's my watch, here's my lighter. I'm like, the cigar's not lit, the bottle's not open.
Yeah, it goes back on the shelf.
I'm not impressed.
Right.
I don't need a picture of your collection.
Right.
It's funny you mention that because when I first started doing Instagram, like 6-7 years ago, exactly what I did. I took all my best cigars, I put on my best stuff.
Of course.
I was like, I'm just going to put it on. But then I felt kind of really fake. I was like, I'm not. People are gonna catch on. Like
Somebody, what was the hashtag? Why are your cigars never burning?
Something ridiculous like that. And I'm like, people are gonna catch on eventually that my bottle of whiskey isn't open, my cigar's not lit. So then I just started taking actual just still frames of the items
of the moment.
And I would put the matches, and I'd be like, all right, this is a little more acceptable because I have a moral compass. I'm like, I can't keep posting, on Instagram straight flexing, but like I'm not even flexing. It's kind of fake.
It's called being genuine, right? And a lot of times you see that on Instagram now.
It was a lot harder to fake and to pose when you actually had to roll up with the car. You know what I mean? Like you couldn't pretend to own a Benz.
Right.
You either there was a Mercedes in the parking lot or there wasn't.
Right. And nowadays it's like it's that quote that people say where, people aren't what they post about or aren't always what they post about, right? Because you can see some guy, you can rent a Lamborghini and go rent a big ass Airbnb and be like, yeah, I make $1 million a month. Come follow my program.
Right.
And it's like it looks great on Instagram, but that's not always what it's about. So to your point is, back 30 years ago, there was no Instagram. It was you are who you are
in real time,
and there is no faking.
And if you were a fraud, you had to work really hard. I mean, that was like serious effort.
Yeah, it's just a shame how that's kind of, and I do blame social media for that. And social media could be a blessing and a curse depending on how you use it, right? If you use it to promote and like what we're doing right now to bring people together over, our cigars and our industry over whatever it is, it's a blessing. But sometimes it's a curse because it creates this need for approval from everybody, right? That's what everybody needs, the likes. Yeah. I got to post because I got to get likes because I'll feel better about myself.
That's scary.
And it's scary because that's tainting our youth where you don't need the approval of your peers.
Youth,
like, is that person
our adults?
Everybody. Is that person paying your bills? No. Then who gives a shit what they say? Who cares if they like your post?
I remember
if you like it, post it.